When you initially install Estimate Master on your iPad, it's pretty much a blank slate. Estimate Master is really a database program that keeps all your customer info, your estimate info, your parts and materials, your labor, your taxes, markups, information about how you want the estimate to appear to your customers. All that's kept in a database, but initially that database is empty. So let's start by put some data in this database. So I'm just going to tap on the lower left of the preferences screen, import sample database, and we'll bring in a database. Okay, now we got some data, and let's go to the customers tab. What you see there is two blocks of information. There's a main and an alternate set of contact for each customer, and a customer name on top, and you just navigate by using the arrows. Pretty much the arrow thing is kind of like using a tape cassette player from the old days. There's an arrow to fast forward and to go back one step or two steps or one record, etc. To add a customer, you just touch the plus, and delete a customer, you touch the X. The estimate tab is organized by estimate, so organized by customer actually. So if I touch on the lower left a customer name, to the immediate right of that is the estimate projects for that customer. So I go to customer B, I got just one estimate, customer B estimate. If I go to customer A, I've got a bunch of estimates, each one. So you can have many estimates for one customer or just one. And at the top of the screen, if I touch an estimate project in the lower right, above that in the top half of the screen is the estimate items for that estimate, the line items in other words, along with the total, subtotal, taxes, etc. Moving on, the parts and materials tab. The big square on the left is parts and materials. You notice there's a code column. The code is something you assign. It's kind of an arbitrary code that you assign to each item just to help you keep track of each part. It's rather than read the long description, you can create a 3, 4, 5, or 6, or however many characters quick description of that item. It just helps you keep track of your database items when you have a code. And there's a price per. So if it's an each, on the upper right is the unit type. So if it's a unit type of each, that means it's a per unit sold. If it's a feet, for example, then it's a length related item, and the price per refers to 1 foot, or if it's in inch pounds, it refers to price per inch pound. Let's go to the labor tab. Organized pretty much like the parts and materials tab. On the big square on the left is labor tasks, expressed in hours or fraction of hours to do that task. And to the right of that is rate. That's the hourly rate to do that task. So if a task takes an hour to install linoleum, it's $6 for 1 hour. It could be a fraction of an hour, but that's the hourly rate, which relates to the square on the upper right. That's your labor rates. You need at least one, but you could have many labor rates. And then to the lower right are assemblies. Each one represents a conglomeration of labor and materials lumped together. That's a time saver when you're creating estimates. For example, if I touch the edit button and then click on the arrow, you can see what's in the assembly. So some of these have 4 or 5. You can have as many items in the assembly as you want. Notice the quantities and the length fields where applicable are encoded into the assembly. So when you add an assembly to an estimate, all that information goes in automatically into the estimate. So again, that's a time saver. Preferences. There's a few different things in preferences. There's the tax rates. You probably need obviously at least one if you're putting taxes in your estimates. Even if you're not putting taxes in, you need to have a zero tax or no tax item, and you need to assign it because the program won't let you present an estimate to a customer or print it or display it or email it unless you've assigned taxes and markups. Again, the markup works the same way. Even if there's no markup, you need to assign a zero markup to get the estimate to print. So when you notice here, I've got a zero markup, and the estimate we're working with currently is always in the lower left in this little box here. You're seeing the prices and the totals reflecting no markup. If I go and assign a markup of 50%, I can assign different markups to labor and materials. Now when you go back to the estimate screen, you'll see that the price per and the totals reflect that markup. So if you're going to show an estimate to a customer, if you're going to show them the screen that you're seeing now, for example, you want to have your markups in place. Okay, and then the My Company tab is just information about your company, the name, the contact info, address, telephone, email address, etc. And there's lower right is estimators, people that do the estimating in your company, so you can assign estimators to an estimate. So I've got an estimate here. If I want to reassign a different estimator, I just click the estimator name, click the right arrow. Now I've assigned that estimate to a different person. Also updates the date to the current date. There's more you can do with the estimate. Each one of these tabs will have a longer explanation, but that's pretty much an overview of the program.